Interestingly, we heard from Kate Middleton, speaking about families, I guess. Kate Middleton has come out. There's sad news that she's fighting cancer. She released a film. This has come after weeks and weeks of speculation about was there something wrong with her, all sorts of conspiracy theories wandering around. Sad story, Rita?
Oh, absolutely. She's the mother of 3 young children. She had to tell them about this battle. And there's been such wild conjecture now, really for weeks, but particularly since that Mother's Day photo came out and a number of news agencies said, we're not running this, this has been manipulated. So that interest intensified and the conspiracy theories intensified. But there is such great goodwill for Princess Catherine, and let's just hope she's back to 100% very shortly.
Absolutely. Now, James, talking about the media, it transpires, weren't allowed, the Australian media at least, the Chinese media were, but the Australian media weren't allowed to sit in on Paul Keating, former Prime Minister, having a chin wag with Wang Yi. And the joke was that he was China's preferred Prime Minister. Certainly Penny Wong was at odds with him over certain aspects. Fascinating what was going on here. So the Chinese chose to meet with Keating. Yeah. Chinese media was allowed. They reported what they spoke about. I'll be talking about that in Clown Show, appropriately enough, later on in the show. Well, what did you make of it, James?
Well, look, Rowan, I made of it, it's very simple, that this meeting was a disgrace. Paul Keating should never, ever have accepted that sort of meeting, which plays right into the optics of what China wants to create around the narrative, its preferred narrative around Australia. It made Australia look supine. It made him look like he, as a former prime minister, refused to stand up for the values of openness and transparency that Australia stands for and China doesn't. And really, and I'm afraid for Paul Keating, who I think, we have to be honest about, has left a very complex legacy in this country. He did an awful lot of good in the economy, and yet on the subject of China, he has been all wrong consistently over and over again. And this, I think, does his legacy, Paul Keating's legacy, no good either.
Rita.
I agree with that 100%. His stance on China is bewildering when you just look at what we're dealing with now. I mean, maybe 20 years ago you could defend it, but not now. Not now that we're aware of China's aggression, their ambitions, the way they use their economic might to bully smaller nations, what they did to Australia with that economic coercion, banning our products, banning our imports or putting massive tariffs on them, and never mind the entire COVID catastrophe, which they lied about from day one. And yet we still have this pro-Beijing line running from some former politicians. It's bewildering. It really is. It makes you wonder whether they're just so committed to a position they had years ago that they can't deviate from that. They can't say, maybe I got it wrong. Maybe China isn't just this benign economic superpower. We actually should be concerned about what their long-term ambitions are.
Well, Rita and James, 2 former Labor Prime Ministers made clowns of themselves this week, one deliberately, one courtesy of a question put to the next President of the United States, who we talked about earlier. You'll be talking about the Kevin Rudd story later on in Rita's reality check, and I'll be mentioning it as well in Clown Show along with Mr. Keating. Sometimes these things write themselves, Rita and James.